Greetings. First of all, I'm going to apologize up front that I probably am going to have to do a lot of editing in this video. I hope not, but I'm here alone with 3 dogs and it's too hot to close the door, and I don't trust the dogs if I'm in here with the door closed and they're out doing who knows what. So right now we have both Louie and Bayon are both in here with me, and we have a dog who's boarding right now for a week or so. We might end up in here. It's a crowded room and I'm afraid they're going to knock the camera, so I'm probably going to be juggling dogs and camera and things. But I wanted to come on and share something with you. Perfect timing. If you're following the ABCs of paganism, it was perfect timing because I was up to the letter H. Coincidentally, I just have had in the last, probably month, more than just a few people asking me about horoscopes. What's the deal with horoscopes? What is the deal? And I want to say up front, I am not an expert on horoscopes. I am not an expert on astrology. There are a lot of people who are. There are a lot of channels here on YouTube by people that know an awful lot about astrology. Okay, than I do. They know a lot more than I do. But it is something I'm very interested in, and I know enough basics. I believe I know enough basics that I can answer a few questions that I think are confusing a few people. So that's really what I want to talk to you today. Good boy, Ben. Go lay down. Lay down. But before I get on to it, we're going to talk about natal horoscope first. First, we're going to talk about natal horoscope. Then we're going to talk about what does that have to do with your daily or your weekly or monthly horoscope. Okay. So, but before I get started, when I was talking about my natal horoscope, talking about when we were born, I realized I just had passed a birthday several weeks ago, and I don't think made a video since. So I wanted to show you a few things that I got, and I want you to say, look forward to these things coming in future videos. I'm going to do a video about each of these things. During my birthday, my actual birthday, I remember out in the desert, cooking over fire for over 106 degrees, cooking over fire, which was quite fun. And I was thinking, originally that I would shoot a video. Well, of course we did not shoot a video. It wasn't possible with what we were doing, so I can't share it that way with you. Maybe another time. But anyway, my birthday was spent there, so my birthday was sort of delayed till we came back. And one thing I wanted to show you, one of the most wonderful things is, I even wrote it down. I don't think I have the right paper. I wanted to say the right thing about this. But any of you here on YouTube who follow, I think we pronounce it Aiki Therese, Aikitherese, might have seen, she's a great artist and a great photographer. And she does what she calls printing, cyanotype printing, for one kind of printing she does. And she did a video showing these flags that she made on the order of prayer flags. They sort of serve the same purpose as prayer flags, which she flies in her yard, and I fly in mine as well all the time. So a lot of us do. And so she made, I think, 2 different sizes. I was so in love with these flags. I kept mentioning to my husband, I hope she sells these because I really wanted them. And didn't he contact her, and he bought me 2 sets. And this is what they look like if you have not. I don't want to open them all up now, but they're different prints that she does with botanicals in her own garden. Bayan, lay down. Anyway, they're so beautiful. I'm sorry I don't have the paper, Therese, to say exactly what you want to say. But I'll tell you a little more about them when we do fly them. I have this size, and I'm not sure the length. And then there's a larger size too. That they're just absolutely, I'm in love, so in love with them. And I can't wait to get them up. I didn't put them up yet in the yard because we're doing some construction. We're putting up a little bit of construction in the back, and I want to fly them. I want to get that construction up and then That will help me determine where I'm going to put them. So, but I didn't want to wait to share them. I wanted to show you how wonderful. And please go, I'll put a link to her channel below. So if you're not aware of her channel, please go and check them out. And you can see the processes that she uses. Bayan, get down. Get down. 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 Let's go. Good boy. 6 months old today. My dog is 6 months old today. He's pretty good. Okay, anyway, I'll put the link to her channel, and you go and you can see her talk about these flags. They're incredible. And she does sell them, so if you're interested, get some. They're tremendous. Okay, so that was part of my birthday gift. And let me move this away. So that was part of my gift. And the other part of my gift from my husband was a tarot deck. You might be surprised because you know I'm not a big collector of decks. I have to say I'm getting more interested in more decks because there's a lot of people doing a lot of sharing of decks here on YouTube. And some of them are really so incredible that I really resonate with some of them. So, and this was one. I saw this first on Hermit's Cave. Simon on Hermit's Cave shared this deck, and I just said to my husband when we were watching him, oh my, I have to have this deck. It is the Santa Muerte Tarot, the Book of the Dead. And you might remember how fascinated I am with the Day of the Dead and the whole concept. And this is all about, there's of course a book in here. I'm not going to share these now because I am going to do a I'm gonna do a couple videos, I think, on this deck and maybe share it then. But I won't do a flip through. If you're interested in the flip through, go to Simon over at Hermit's Cave and watch his video. I'll put a link to that as well here because they're beautiful cards. They're beautiful cards. But you know me, I want to get in there and examine the cards and see what is the purpose. How do these vary from some of the other decks that I have? What is the intention for the cards? Just like I did in the Wildwood Tarot, I'd like to do this, and in the Cat Tarot, I did that here on one of my playlists. And I'm going to do the same thing with the Santa Muerte cards. So if you're interested in tarot, watch for this. I'm going to do this. Okay. So that's all I wanted to say about my birthday. Enough about my birthday. It's done. I'm doing some edits in this because I was so distracted by the dogs. You're probably wondering why the zucchinis keep coming and going out of the picture. Anyway, today's subject is not about tarot. It is about astrology. And I have said, an expert in astrology at all. I am only interested in it. I can tell you a little bit what I know about it because I think that you would be interested too if you a little more. I think it seems sort of frivolous if we just skim the surface and we only concern ourselves with what sun sign we are, which is what most people know. But anyway, I wanted to show you, this is the book that I use most of the time. This is the shape the book is in. It is a well-loved book. I've had it since 1980. I'm not even sure how good of a book it is, but it served me pretty well over the years, and it gives me a really good basic understanding that I'm trying to pass on to you today. I'm interested in astrology, like most of us are, at least to some extent. But I really wanted to talk today a little bit about it because, first of all, there's some misconceptions. A lot of us have misconceptions about astrology and about what it can do for us in our lives. And I was just with a group of women, and quite a few of them, we had a discussion about, somebody brought up, oh, what are you? Are you a Capricorn? What are you? And I mentioned that I was a Cancer, and they said, "Oh, they could say I was a Cancer." And I said, "Well, I'm a triple Cancer, actually." What does that mean? What does that mean? And we started the conversation by talking about our big three. And if you have seen any of my any of my videos in the past, when I was talking about Horoscopes, I used to do Horoscopes quite regularly through my Bird in the Crown Facebook page, and I posted the results on my Bird in the Crown blog post when I just, for fun, I would pull some cards for everybody. Every week I pull cards for every person according to your sign, your astrological sign. And I had always said to people, don't just read for your sun sign. Read for your big three. Read for all your three. And this was the question then came up, what does that mean? Well, everybody knows their sun sign. Everybody knows their sun sign. And people mostly know their children's sun sign and their spouse's sun signs too. And the sun sign is what, you identify with most likely, because it is really about who you are, your personality, your ego, what makes you you is your sun sign. And my sun is in Cancer. And that has depended on your birth date. What time of the year? I was born June 22nd, and that puts me into Cancer, right into Cancer, the second day of Cancer actually, which begins on the June 21st in most categories, most systems. They begin Cancer in June 21st. In some publications, it has showed up as on the cusp between Gemini and Cancer. But I am a triple Cancer. I am so Cancer, you don't even want to know. Because not only is my sun in Cancer, my moon is also in Cancer. What does that mean? Okay. Well, first of all, for you to understand, everybody has seen an astrological wheel, a horoscope wheel. It looks something like this. Okay, it's just round. It's a circle. And your natal horoscope is just a map, so to speak, of where the planets were in the sky when you were born. Okay? And there are the planets, and if you were to take a picture of what the sky looked like in relationship to Earth, it's sort of like somebody described it like as if you put up 12 points outside, almost like windows outside of the sphere with the Earth centered. 12 spokes, let's say, going out from Earth with a window on each. What could you see in each of those windows? 12 windows at the time you were born, and those are your houses at the time you were born. What did it look like on your map? Okay, and that's what your natal horoscope tells you about. I might not be describing that well, I hope I am, but it's not that important. It's just that you realize that this is what the natal horoscope is telling us. It is not just telling us where the sun was, it is telling us where the moon was, where Mercury was, where Venus was, where Mars was, where everything was in relationship to the Earth at the time you were born. Now remember, the planets do not revolve around Earth. Earth revolves, and so it looks like things are in a different place. The sun is not moving around Earth. Earth is moving around the sun. So the sun shows up at a different place. Okay? Right? So we understand that concept. But it would appear like if we were looking at it through these windows, as the Earth was moving, we would see different things coming up in these windows or houses in our map, so to speak. The natal horoscope was a snapshot, let's say, of the sky at the moment you were born. Not just the day you were born, but it had to do with where you were born, the location you were born. Where on Earth were you born? Because we know how things are on different sides of the Earth. It's day on one side, it's night on the other side. Okay? Right? As the Earth moves and tilts on its axis, all of these things happen. So, the moon, of course, revolving around the Earth at the same time. Where was the moon? Where did the moon appear? Okay? That has to do with, if we talk about the sun having to do with your ego, not your ego, your personality, your personality, what makes you you. Your moon has to do with your emotions, what makes you happy or sad, or how you might react to stress, how you might react to anger, to fear. What is your reaction to any given thing, and that has to do, your emotions have to do with where your moon is. And that's easy to understand. We know the effects of the moon. As witches, we follow the moon for different things. We see that the moon has a great effect on us. And everybody who deals with the moon seems to know, even people who are not witches. If you talk to people in hospital, working in emergency rooms, you talk to teachers working in classrooms, they know very well how much the moon affects the emotions of patients in the emergency room, of people, of hospitals for people that have mental conditions are very aware of this. Teachers in classrooms are very aware of the behavior of students at different times when the moon is in different phases. So moon is very strong and a big part of your horoscope. So knowing where your sun is and knowing where your moon is very important. I want to say that your ascendant is the sign of the zodiac, which first appears on the horizon at the time of your birth. Okay, the sign of the zodiac. So remember the windows, the little windows, whatever the sign of the zodiac is that appears first. Now, if you were born at dawn, your ascendant is most likely to be the same as your sun sign. But if you were born in the middle of the day, it would be a different sign of the zodiac. And again at night, if you were born at nighttime, it would be, you'd have a different ascendant than somebody else born on the exact same day as you. Therefore, we see a variation right away. Okay, we see the variation of the sun, the variation of the moon, and a variation of the ascendant. 3 variations for people born on the exact same day. Okay, another bad edit. I'm saying bad edit because you can see I'm in a different room. Your ascendant. Your ascendant is a card that represents how people see you, and also how you might go about achieving your goals. As you can see, this is really a different concept than your sun sign. Your sun sign is who you are, but remember, other people don't always see you the way you are. Aren't we all really misunderstood? And a lot of times it's because we keep our real self hidden from people. We keep our sun sign, our real personality, hidden. Maybe our real personality says that we're very, very shy, but we keep that hidden, and we put on a public face that we are quite comfortable in social situations. We're just good at acting the part. Okay, that's what your ascendant is. Your public face, how other people see you. Not the same thing. So again, another great reason. Sun sign, moon sign, ascendant, all tremendous variants for people that might be born on the very same day. Knowing these 3 things, your sun, your moon, oh my, this is Bayan, 6 months old today. Say hello, Bayan. Say hello. Say hello. With his hot breath. With his hot breath. Yes. Okay, get down. Are very important in your horoscope. Your 3 things are very important in your horoscope. Get down. So if you're going to just read for your sun sign, you're not going to know if it has something to do with how you may emotionally react to something. You need to know what your moon sign is. Okay, you're going to react in that way. Okay, so you need to know your public, and if it's something about your public self, you need to know about your ascendant, what your ascendant's horoscope is too. So when I used to do these tarot scopes, to put it, I'm trying to make it simple and I'm getting more complicated because I keep getting interrupted, I'm sorry. But when I used to do these tarot scopes, I used to tell people, read for your sun sign, read for your moon sign, read for your rising sign or your ascendant, and get a better idea. It would help, and I say that to everybody for horoscopes. If you're talking about daily horoscopes, because it changed. Bayan? Which we're going to talk about that later. But anyway, it just is going to give you more information. Because everybody's natal chart is absolutely different. Everybody who's born in Cancer does not have that same snapshot as you did at the time of your birth. At the time of their birth, the planets appear to be in different places, right? Even if they were born on the same day, what if they were born on the same year? It could be the same, but what if they were born at a different time of the day? What if they were born on the other side of the earth or in another state? You see how it varies? It really is going to vary. Okay. Some of the planets move very fast or appear to move very fast in the position. Remember, the planets, it's the Earth that is moving around the sun. But some of them, appear to be moving very fast. Some of them are very slow. It takes a long time for that picture to change for some of the slower moving planets. Okay, for some of the slower planets, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, I just want to real briefly give you an example of what I'm talking about. On my natal chart, and by the way, natal charts are something you can get for absolutely free on the internet, a very lovely chart. You do a Google, and it will show you. I don't know, I have a couple that I use regularly. I forget the name of them. But if you just put in the Google, free natal chart or whatever, it's like a little computer generated, it's a generated thing. You put in your birth date, you need to do your birth date, day and year, where you were born. If you know the city, that's really good. If you know the city and state or country. And the time of day really will help you. It will give you the most accurate chart if you know the time of day you were born. As close as you can get to the real time. So, that's free. It's free. And it tells you a lot of the information that you need to know. All you really need to know if you're just going to dabble in this horoscope a little bit. Okay? So just in my natal chart, I want to give you an idea what my wheel would look like. It's sort of a clustered mess. Not really. But my sun, remember, my sun is in Cancer. All of these, the 12 houses of the horoscope, the 12 signs go around this circle, so to speak. And where did the sun appear? The sun was in Cancer. My ascendant, the first planet, the first thing arriving in my horizon was Cancer, in Cancer. The moon is in Cancer. That gives me the triple. Sun in Cancer, Cancer ascendant, moon in Cancer. Mercury was in Cancer. Venus was in Cancer. And Uranus, which I like to say, but people don't like that, so I will say Uranus, which I find odd, because I'd never said it my whole life, was in Cancer. Those were all in Cancer. Now, but there were other planets that are important too. Venus, no, I said that was in Cancer. Mars was in Scorpio. Jupiter was in Taurus. Saturn was in Libra. And so was Neptune. And Pluto was in Leo. And Pluto was always the planet for me, so I still count it. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to come back and talk about what that means a little bit later when we talk about the horoscope. But each of these 12 houses around on the sky in the map of my natal thing, what that meant, where was in the first house? What was my first house? My first house was Cancer. Each house has to do with some kind of traits. Like, for instance, I won't go through them, but the house of communication, or house having to do with maybe your relationship with your relatives or whatever, is your third house. And my third house was Leo, in Leo, okay? So that's going to determine traits about me, perhaps in my general overall horoscope, on my astrological chart, the information that I determined from the time of my birth, based on where those things were at the time of my birth, how I deal with my parents, how I in my home, how I deal with my spouse or partnerships, how I deal with maybe money or possessions, how I deal with career or friends, how I deal with, what kind of things might affect me with my health. All of these things are determined by where the planets were at your birth. So what does it mean when we talk about, then, we're going to go ahead and talk about horoscopes. What about reading in a magazine, a daily horoscope? Let me take a little drink. Well, I don't write horoscopes for people. Okay. But I want to tell you that I did some research, and I read the daily horoscopes. Daily horoscopes have to do with the transits of the moon. I'm going to look it up in this book. Because it says the moon spends less than a day in each sky position, only 2.5 days in a natal house. This means that it occurs so quickly you feel them more as unconscious urges or impulses rather than conscious reactions to situations. Okay, the effects of a transiting moon as it makes aspects with your natal planet positions are often felt for only a matter of hours. But regardless of whether or not you are consciously aware of them, you might feel the effect of the moon. We talk about how the moon affects us. Okay, so this is why a daily horoscope, reading a daily horoscope, yeah, it might have something to do with you, but it might not. But in order for you to read that, it's important for you to know, if you're going to really pay attention to the daily horoscope, not just your sun, right? Because we're talking about, what are we talking about? We're talking about the moon. So not just where your moon was when you were born, okay, but when that moon, if you look onto you can find out in an atlas, you can, or well, I know I have a witch's calendar that tells you when the sun comes into Scorpio or the moon goes into Taurus, or, okay, you can find that on there. You can find it in the Farmer's Almanac, I believe. So, you need to know when that moon comes into, let's say, when the moon comes into, let's say, Capricorn. Let's say the moon is in Capricorn. Capricorn is my 7th house. So that has to do with, maybe it might affect something to do with my relationships. And here in my book, it says if the moon transits my 7th house, which is Capricorn for me. So if the moon is Capricorn, that's my 7th house. It says, beware of jealousies and unreasonable behavior with loved ones or confrontations with business partners. Think twice before sounding off. So that might be one of those days I just feel like a little off. I maybe don't know why, but maybe it's because the moon is transiting my 7th house in Capricorn. Okay, maybe it's in Capricorn, which is my 7th house. That might be a little confusing. But you see what I'm saying? It's just like a little bit of an undercurrent. Let's say the moon is transiting. Let's say the moon is in Pisces. Okay? The moon is in Pisces. Pisces is my 10th house. Okay? And the 10th house has to do with your career or your status. And what it says in this book for the moon transiting the 10th house says, here's your chance to show the boss what you can really do. The stage is set to help you pass the test, but only if you prepare for it. That might be a good day to ask for maybe a raise or ask for maybe a promotion, but just if you're prepared for it. So in that case, it might be helpful. But remember, this is such a little part of everything. This is such a tiny little part of the picture. And most horoscopes, the daily horoscopes, as you can see, are going to be so varied for so many people. Unless you can do it for yourself and read it for yourself, you're not going to find a good horoscope in a paper for a daily horoscope, especially because they're, what are they going to have to do with you? Unless you know where the moon is in the sky, what house in the house, what house does that represent in your natal chart? Okay, does that make any sense? I hope I'm not making it more confusing. Now, just so that we know, we're going to get a little bit more detail here. Your monthly horoscopes for the month of August. You see those often. They're more often. And they have a little more to them. They can have a little more to them because this can be based on your sun. Where is your sun sign? Where is, what is the sun? And the sun might be, right now, the sun is in Cancer. The sun is in Cancer, still in Cancer. And what does Cancer represent? Where is Cancer on your chart? In mine, it's in my 1st house, but where is it on yours? Okay, you need to know that. Maybe you might need to know, in order to get an accurate horoscope for you for the month, where is Mercury? Where is Venus? Where is Mars? Because those all change positions Mercury here, it says, spends about 2 days in each sky position, a week in each natal house. During that time, it affects your mental outlook, communication with others, and urges to take trips. When Mercury is in retrograde motion during its transit, it may introduce delays in the affairs under its influence. And I want to talk to you about this because we hear this all the time. I don't want to get into this too technical, but where did I put this? The explanation of what Mercury in retrograde really means, because we hear this all the time. Mercury gets such a bad rap. Oh, Mercury's in retrograde, and everybody goes, oh, doom and gloom, Mercury's in retrograde. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad. First of all, what does it mean when a planet appears in retrograde motion? In here, there's a very good explanation of you're on a train at a train station. And of course, you're facing one direction, and there's a train beside you facing the opposite direction. And you're both sitting still. One of you begins to move. But you can't be sure if you're moving very slowly and very, very smoothly and very slowly. You sometimes cannot be sure if you are the one that's moving or the other train is the one that's moving. So if you're moving forward, sometimes it appears that the other train is moving backwards because you don't feel your movement of your train moving forward. It just appears that the other train is moving backward. That's what it means for Mercury or any planet to be in retrograde. Okay? The planet, it seems to stand still. And it occurs in stages. First, the planet seems to stand still, then it backs up through the signs, stands still again, and then resumes its forward motion. The sun and moon are never in retrograde motion. The amount of time a planet spends in retrograde motion depends on the orbit, okay, varying from about 21 days for Mercury to about 160 days for Pluto, okay? And the misconception is that the retrograde planet signifies something unpleasant. Well, it's because the reason it says it's easy to see why a retrograde planet prolongs the influence of that planet in its sign, and house of a prolonged unpleasantness will be blamed on that retrograde condition. If things suck, it's there a little longer than normal, so it seems to suck for a longer period of time. But in all fairness, it continues to say, if a retrograde planet is producing pleasant circumstances, that too will be prolonged by the retrograde planet. So it just is a matter of perspective, right? It's a matter of what's been happening when it appears to go in retrograde. Okay? If it's going to be pleasant or unpleasant. So just by blaming everything on poor Mercury being in retrograde, that's a false statement. Okay? But again, in this book, and you can get this information online too, but let's say Mercury, while Mercury is moving, let's say it's not retrograde. Let's just say it's moving. Maybe Mercury is in Sagittarius. And on my natal horoscope, Sagittarius is my 6th house. So it says, be careful in dealing with others at work. Okay, you're much too critical at this time. You feel anxious about your health. Get more rest right now. Okay, so if the moon in my in the daily horoscope was telling me this is a good day, but I'm looking here at my monthly horoscope and I'm seeing for this period of time, while Mercury is in my 6th house, I don't want to chance it. I want to just let things go even Steven. Let things stay right the way they are right now. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Okay. So, Venus, let's say about Venus. We usually think about Venus as, the romance and things like that. But Venus spends about 1 week in the sky position, about 3 weeks in each house. So it'd be about 3 weeks in each of your house. It only goes retrograde for about 1.5 times a year. And during that time, affairs might be slowed down or they might be delayed, just like we said. And here we say, let's say Venus is in Gemini, which is my 12th house. It says, that is my house of secrets and limitations. And here it says, somehow things seem to require that you take care of someone else at this time. Use this opportunity to learn the rewards of unselfish giving. So, you see how it varies? Now, slow moving planets that are stay, don't seem to be moving at all because they're so far away and they're so slow, are good for using to forecast things like we need to maybe take into the consideration of them. Saturn and Jupiter for a yearly horoscope. But also, like, you see things that are consistent with generations. Like, why does this generation seem to have this trait in common? That has to do with the position of Pluto or Neptune or Uranus in your Uranus, which I like to say better, in your natal horoscope, because they move so slowly. Things are so slow. They appear to move so slowly. Okay, so things stay the same for maybe 16 years or something like that for some of them. So it affects an entire generation of people. So is horoscope important? Is it important to know your horoscope? I would say, if you're going to be, the reason I sort of urge people to learn a little more than you know, if you're like me and you didn't know a lot, I urge you to learn a little more than you know, because it's so easy, number one, to make generalizations about people and say, oh, he's a Aries, he's a ball of fire. He's really a ball of fire. My husband's an Aries. And when we were younger, and we were really right first into horoscopes, people said, well, he's a fire and you're a water. That can't ever mix. Well, I did our compatibility chart, I don't know, in the 80s sometime. I guess when I got this book, I learned how to do that, and found that we were really compatible in most areas. And then I learned, and I'm looking at his big three. His sun is in Aries, but his moon is in Gemini, and his ascendant is Taurus. He's a completely different kind of a person than just a ball of fire Aries. Because in a lot of ways, Taurus is a slow mover. In a lot of ways. A Taurus might, they have great ideas. So he might have a great Aries energy and the great ideas, but he might not be a self-starter. He might need somebody else to get him to begin or get him to finish. It depends what it is. He's has a lot of emotional in his sign, a lot of emotion in his. I just realized my chickens are in the yard. Like, there's birds in my yard. Oh, they're having a good time. The bugs, not the bugs. Anyway, so when I did the tarot scopes, I said, know your big three. If you're going to follow horoscopes, know your big three. The other reason for knowing your big three, you all know I read tarot. You're tired of me saying it. I like to do tarot readings, and I can do them in person. It's my favorite way, or on Skype, which is kind of in person, but I also do them. I understand that we can't always be on Skype together. So it is really, I found it is pretty good for me. I get pretty good readings, I think. If I can just do a video for you in your reading, if I know your big three. If I know your sun sign, if I know your ascendant, and if I know your moon sign, which might tell me how you might be reacting or some of your strengths or weaknesses in different areas, it helps me when I'm reading your sign. It gives me a little bit more outlook, a little bit hint of a peek into your personality, so I don't see you sitting in front of me at the table, but I see a very important part of you. I see a complete picture. If I were just going to see you as a sun sign, you as a Cancer, or you as an Aries, I would not get a complete picture. But I can really get a nice, good picture if I combine the big three. That's why it's really important. As far as knowing, it doesn't matter if you do not follow daily horoscopes or weekly horoscopes or monthly. I really do not. To be honest, I really do not usually follow them. But I find that my natal chart is very comforting to me, knowing my natal horoscope. the horoscope, the picture, that map when I was born, because it tells me how I react. It explains to me things that, number one, I react emotionally. I have a tendency to react emotionally. I do not stop and think. I right away act with emotion. My husband, by the way, this is one good times, in his chart, in his chart, has the ability to stop, think, and react not with emotion. He uses his intellect. He puts his emotions aside. He uses his intellect. You see how this is a really good combination for us. If it's something that's a little tense, a little worrisome, a little whatever, and a decision has to be made, he's got the trump card. He's got the trump card. But it also tells us in a relationship, I'm reacting emotionally. Why isn't he emotional? He sometimes seems too cold to me. Like, this is emotion. Why aren't you more excited about this? Well, I'm excited, but I'm also cautious. Now, don't get carried away. You seek an effect that way. But seeing this in my natal horoscope, seeing it in his and seeing this in mine, I'm better able to understand how I'm reacting. Okay. I also know something about me that has been bugging me for my whole entire life. I'm an old woman and I'm still bugged by it. The fact that I've said it before, don't really have friends. I don't have a lot of friends. I have a lot of acquaintances. I don't mean it, and I think I hurt people's feelings when I say I don't have friends, and people that consider me their friend, it hurts their feelings. And I do cherish them. But I don't have those real good, close, understand everything about me kind of a friend that people seem to have. A lot of people seem to have that. I'm very lonely, and a lot of times that way. I have trouble with casual relationships. I have a lot of them, but I have trouble connecting to them. Right? I prefer someone who really understands me and really knows me than somebody who just thinks I'm fun or just thinks I'm cool to be with, or Which that's something that I understand from my horoscope. It's something I see from my natal horoscope that explains that. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's good or it's right or it's justifiable, because it's really not. I need to really get over that. But I can see where the basis is from my horoscope. I can understand it. I don't ever want to use a horoscope as an excuse. But I do think it's a good explanation for some things. Use it as an explanation. Use it as an explanation. That's all I really wanted to say. Again, please, I'm going to emphasize again, I don't know, a lot of people listen to the beginning and then shut it off, but if you've been still watching clear to the end here, emphasize again, I am not an expert in this field. I do not. As much as I say I'm not an expert in tarot, either I'm not, but I do know a hell of a lot more about tarot than I know about astrology. So that's where I am on that chart. On the chart. That's where I am. So don't quote me. I don't want you to quote me and say, she told us this means this. This is my understanding. I've off and on studying for quite a few years, since, when we say 1980. I have other books, but this has pretty much been my Bible, as you can see, for astrology. And I don't even know what kind of a book this is, if it's good or not. It could be a sucky book. So anyway, but I just do know enough to know that it can make a big difference in your life if you can understand it. It can really make a big difference. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Stay tuned for some more videos. I've got a lot coming up in the queue. I will link below to Teresa's channel. I will link below to Simon's channel. And stay tuned if you're interested. We're going to be doing some fun with this deck. Get my flags up. And doing some other cool things. Thank you so much for watching. And I miss doing videos when I'm on here. I'm going to try to do some more real quick. So, as always, I'm Rebecca, and I send you blessings. And cheers. Lovely.